Hello and good day as we enter the second fortnight of Gulf War 3.0. We look at what are the scenarios ahead in the next fortnight. As you would recall, Gulf War 1.0 was launched in 1991 to evict the Iraqi forces from Kuwait. 2.0 in 2003 to evict Saddam Hussein from Iraq, and now we have Gulf War 3.0. So, how is the war going? What have been the major outcomes so far? And what could be the scenarios in the fortnight ahead? Immediate, off ramp, and long term. Here is an overview. Firstly, the war objectives. What are the war objectives of both sides? Several objectives have been bandied about in the past fortnight by Israel and the United States. The mission of Operation Iraq Epic Fury is laser focused: destroy Iranian offensive missiles, missile production, their navy, and other security infrastructure that they will never have nuclear weapons, said US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. These are, of course, the military objectives. His boss, US President Donald Trump, has spoken about several objectives in the past without any clarity as what is the overall political aim. The, for Israel, the objective has been a regime change, a term variously interpreted and one that was unachievable from the very outset for a limited campaign. That was possibility, the joint plan. For Iran, of course, the objective was obviously regime survival, and despite decapitation of the supreme authority Ayatollah Khamenei on the first strike by Israel and the US on February the 28th, it is apparent that the regime continues to survive. So what's next in the Gulf War 3.0, the fortnight ahead? Well, US President Donald Trump told Fox News that United States plans to strike Iran very hard the next week and that it would escort oil tankers through the Straits of Hormuz if necessary. In fact, US Defense Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said Trump will be the one to decide the pace, tempo, and timing of the Iran conflict. Suffice to say, the Iranians have different intentions. The Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai told Xinhua in a recent interview that Iran is determined to defend itself against US and Israeli aggression as long as it takes. So here we have a clash of war objectives, clash of interests, and a very interesting fortnight ahead, one that will be of devastating challenges for the people in Iraq. There are many imponderables despite the objectives. What is the residual combat capability? Missiles, drones, and air defense munitions with both sides. What is the resilience of the Iranian regime, though it has proved highly sustainable in the recent past? US willingness to commit ground troops is another factor, though it may not affect immediately, but of course in the medium to long term. What is the willingness of the Iranian people as well as the minorities for a military rebellion? We don't know. Iranian people's willingness to publicly oppose the regime in the face of facing the bullets from the Basij militia of the IRGC is something which has also to be considered. And then there is impact of the horizontal escalation which Iran is likely to take on the region, thus resulting in more international and regional pressures. Energy routes to the Persian Gulf has already resulted in a global oil crisis. And beyond this, there is an information flux, narratives, misinformation, and disinformation. Who are we to believe, and who is actually telling the truth, if any at all? Given this imponderables and the war objectives, few scenarios emerge. First is the immediate scenario, the obvious one: sustenance of the ongoing missile and drone exchange with increasing severity by the United States and Israel, while horizontal escalation by Iran could be the most evident scenario in the immediate term. An attempt by the United States to clear the Persian Gulf is expected to lead to contestations, particularly in the islands held by Iran in the strategic waterway. Even if these are pulverized through severe air bombardment, these are unlikely to be safe for international maritime traffic being allowed to pass through the Persian Gulf. And then we have an off-ramp scenario. An off-ramp with both sides declaring victory could emerge as an option in case there is a degree of immediate exhaustion in terms of political will and international and regional support in the United States, and possibly depletion of the missile and drone armory of Iran. In such a scenario, an off-ramp cannot be ruled out. However, Iran's objectives in all cases is, when there is an offer by the United States, it also must include recognizing Iran's legitimate rights, though the nuclear is not mentioned, payment of reparations, and firm international guarantees against future aggression. This is what Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian wrote on X. And then there's the US President Donald Trump's visit to China, which starts on March 31st and to April 2nd. Will the US President like to visit China with the war ongoing in the Gulf? Will the Chinese President Xi Jinping like to receive him at a time when China has castigated the United States and Israel for launching the war in Iran? All these are factors which will have to be considered as we go by. Of course, the overall objective has to stop the war. The medium to long term scenario for Iran is very dismal. With the economy on the brink even prior to the war began and massive destruction of civil infrastructure, there is immense pain for the Iranian people, whatever be the configuration of the regime that emerges. For the Gulf states, there is also a lot of challenges to meet ahead. Their objective of turning the Gulf into ocean of stability, enhancing economic and trade relations, and a business horizon that has expanded in the last few years may also come up for question. How do they reset it is what we need to see in the days ahead. The ultimate objective has to be to stop war, stop it as early as possible.